Chef Miles Huff here today to show you how to process a chicken. I'm going to do several cuts on the chicken, but I'm also talk briefly about roasting a chicken as well. So I have a whole chicken. First of all, looking for any blemishes or any bruises on the chicken, which is not normal. You want to always inspect your chicken to make sure that they're nice and fresh. I always start looking, as I start to process the chicken also, usually you will find two globules of fat just found right inside the cavity of the chicken, and that can be used also for rendering, to actually make an oil for roux, to make a sauce, or you can actually make a crackling out of that for the top of your dish, depending on what you want to use it for. Briefly, I also want to show you, if you're going to roast a chicken, I have butcher's twine. I'm pulling it out of a bowl so not to contaminate the twine that I'm getting ready to cut. If I'm roasting this chicken, I actually want to go around, take my butcher's twine and go around the neck once. And this is called truss, T-R-U-S-S. So I'm going to truss the chicken. I pull it up around the neck, cross over the body, around the legs, and tighten up my chicken. So I will basically tie off the chicken, now season it, and actually roast it. Remember, the last part of the chicken will be the thigh to get done. DHEC says it needs to be an internal temperature of 165. I usually like to go to 170, 175 to make sure it's done. This will keep the chicken roasting evenly with all the pieces. If you try to roast it without trussing the chicken, as this chicken would start to roast, the wing and the legs would start to separate and dry out before the breast gets done. That is trussing a chicken. So now I will be doing a series of cuts showing you an 8 cut on the chicken and also a 10 cut, as what we call a 10 cut in the industry. I'll be using a boning knife, or you can use a fillet knife, what is most comfortable with you in your hand. And I'll start off with my thigh. So I'm just going to actually pull it lightly, there again, cutting towards your hand, pulling lightly across the skin of the chicken until it releases. In the back of the chicken, you will see 2 lumps on each side, as a turkey and a duck have, and that's called an oyster. I want to make sure that that boning knife gets in there and gets that little bit of meat in the oyster. As you could hear, I just hit the joint of the chicken. I will go straight through the joint and pull off that portion. Now I have the dark meat, the leg, and actually the thigh. Probably want to clean it up a little bit, take off some of the excess skin. There again, not throwing any of that away, as that can be used for stock. And then if I want to separate this piece, you look for the little fat line actually between the thigh and the leg. Follow your boning knife right through that. If you have difficulty and it doesn't want to cut through, then you've missed that actually joint. Pull the knife back, simply pull the knife back and start again. So there are 2 pieces. We'll pull this back up. Let's go ahead and take off this wing. So I know the joint sits here. So I will make a cut through the wing and try to find that joint. And as I see it, break it away from the chicken. Sometimes you will see the wing as a whole piece, and then sometimes you will see it separated. So we'll go ahead and separate that. There again, finding the joint and cutting away those pieces. We'll do that with the other wing. And there again, being very careful as you're cutting towards your hand, making a series of slices. Sometimes you will see also wings packed this way. I like to take this tip off. There again, you could actually, I've actually seen those roasted before or stock. And there again, finding that joint in between the 2 pieces of the wing. We'll go ahead and take off this portion, the dark meat. Remember, the dark meat is the leg and the thigh, and the white meat is the wing and the breast. Looking for that oyster in the back, as we said before, being very careful, pulling the meat down, getting that off, finding the joint, pulling the meat away. Just that simple. So we have our breast portion left. We have our thigh and our leg, looking for that fat piece that will actually help separate those two. Like I said, if you want to, you can clean these up. You could actually take the skin off if you wanted to. And now we have the breast portion. Some people will actually split the chicken in two and actually cook that with a bone. I like to use the carcass and other things like soup or stock. So I'm going to feel that keel bone and start making a series of slices right next to the bone, pulling off that breast. Following the bone, trying to keep as much meat on the breast as possible. Going around the wishbone, pulling it away off the carcass. Now, having that breast, depending on if the skin is really loose, I could just take that off if I wanted to. Let's take it off. This is where you find the chicken loin, or as some people call it, the chicken finger. You see it and you simply pull it off and you'll have your chicken finger. The tin cut arrives when I take the breast and cut it in two. Because that's a large piece of chicken, especially if you have small diners, and maybe just a little bit too much for them to eat. You don't want to waste any of the chicken. So we're going to there again lightly take, following the curvature of this keel bone on the breast, and take away, separating it, being very careful, cutting towards your hands, taking the breast meat away off the carcass of the chicken. Pulling away the fat, cutting away the meat. I feel it. There we go. So we have our carcass here. There again, if we want to take that off, we can. Putting that there. Pulling this around, you have your entire chicken breast. You also can take, there again, we'll pull off the chicken finger. You also, if you wanted to do a stuffed chicken breast, this is a very big, large size breast, and that's easily done. You can actually take your boning knife or paring knife, insert the knife, moving the knife around, all the way to the end of the breast, reversing it, making sure you have a nice smooth pocket. And then you can actually fill this breast with any type of stuffing or cheese or whatever that you're actually going to be doing for that. But we're doing a tin cut today, so I'll go ahead and take those parts, that breast, and cut it in half. Now the carcass, basically, you can still have meat left on the back. There's a lot of fat to render off the back as well. I've actually taken this back off, barbecued it, and actually sold that separately. Or you can take the entire carcass and put it in stock and make a beautiful stew or a beautiful soup. And that is breaking down a chicken.